Deadlock is one of the single best and most difficult games I've ever played, hands down. It's grueling, unforgiving, endlessly complex, and absolutely worth it all. Having almost no prior experience with MOBAs, saying that Deadlock was overwhelming when I first started to play would be selling it to you pretty short. Every single aspect of the game, from its itemization to character kits or even simply the way you move, is extremely intricate, and it comes at a much steeper learning curve than most modern games. However, that learning also brings with it a sense of reward that few other games can match, and a near endless skill ceiling for you to sink your teeth into. Similar to something like a fighting game or chess, mastery is the main draw of Deadlock, and if you're willing to push past its initial difficulties, on the other side is what will certainly go down as one of the best competitive games ever made. Deadlock is first and foremost a MOBA, centered around pushing lanes to take objectives and map control, gathering souls from farming or minion and player kills, and using those souls to purchase items that can enhance or alter your character's abilities. Of course, what separates Deadlock from most other games in the MOBA space is its third-person perspective, which allows for a focus on skill shots and gunplay. Developed by Valve with their seemingly magical touch, even though Deadlock is still in active development as a closed playtest, the current quality of the game is incredible, and it continues to become more and more streamlined with each update. Being somewhat of a phenomenon, you likely already know about Deadlock, and while I've been keeping tabs on it for almost 2 years now, I really started to dig into it myself about 2 months ago. I was initially put off by the difficulty of the game, however, overwhelmed by the sheer amount of things that I would need to learn and the mechanical density of each element. As I would imagine is the case for a lot of players new to Deadlock or even new to MOBAs, I spent the first few dozen hours that I played getting absolutely destroyed. Feeling like I was struggling to even move properly, much less contribute to my team, I was faced with a lot of discouragement, but I instead chose to accept the struggle as a learning opportunity and commit to overcoming my hurdles. I began to research how items worked, practiced my movement, learned as many character abilities as I could to know what I'd be up against, and I started to find my footing. I found my character in Paige, as her kit felt like it was made exactly for me, and I focused on taking one step at a time towards improvement. At first, I just focused on keeping my waves pushed and trying to do a camp in between. After a few games, having built up the habit, I focused on trying to keep track of the clock to catch the first small camp, as well as trying to catch the first bridge buff. Next was focusing on looking at enemy items and trying to understand what I was struggling against and how I could counter buy. Soon after, I was buying actives to shut down problems, stealing enemy camps, and finding myself contributing far more souls to the team, as well as kills and assists. From there, I was totally hooked, seeing just how far I had already developed as a player and how far I could continue to push myself. The learning became the fun part for me, not the wins, not the kills or the team fights, but the learning. Now, having spent well over 150 hours sharpening my tools, I've climbed from Arcanist, where I was first placed, to Oracle. I went from having a 30% win rate with Paige to a 60% win rate, as well as a positive win rate overall. I've learned multiple characters now in Geist, Sinclair, Rem, Celeste, and most recently Holiday, and I look forward to adding more characters to my roster as I continue to test myself. While I am of course focused on improving my rank, and I'm proud of these metrics, at the end of the day, they're just a reflection of each of the steps I've taken towards my improvement. They do show some amount of concrete development, but above it all, I can now point to each area of the game to see exactly how I as a player have improved. I think my movement is smoother as I've begun to implement more advanced techniques, my timing is better as I continue to catch buffs and camps, my itemization is better as I consistently check enemy items and AP to counter buy, and my mechanics have improved drastically to help pull more weight in fights. Taking those first few steps in the beginning did feel extremely difficult to do, but each time I managed to plant my foot, it became easier to see where I needed to go next. What really enthralls me about Deadlock is that the game itself does not change, be it the items, the map, or the characters. It's you that changes as you grow, learn, and master mechanics. Every improvement you experience in Deadlock is a reflection of your evolution and your improvement as a player. While there's an infinite number of steps that you can take towards that growth, each of them feels meaningful and hard fought, from something as simple as that first time you catch a buff or land a character's combo, to the first time you save a team fight or carry a game. There's really nothing I've ever experienced quite like Deadlock, and while its difficulty can be almost oppressive at times, I think it's also the exact thing that sets the game apart and what's made me fall so deeply in love with it. While I think the general difficulty of the game is what incites that chase for mastery, it goes hand in hand with Deadlock's incredible character design. Every single hero on the roster is extremely unique, both in terms of their aesthetic design as well as their kits, and no matter what kind of player you are, there's a hero that'll be a perfect fit. There's so much diversity on offer, from the feel of weapons to abilities, playstyle, or build crafting, and with the excellent design of items, you can tailor fit your character of choice to be almost anything you want them to be. Further leaning into that customizability or personalization, Deadlock doesn't have traditional roles as other MOBAs do. Heroes are not locked to being strictly support, tank, ADS, or etc., instead having distinct strengths that lend themselves to certain playstyles. As an example, Abrams is recognized as one of the most tanky characters in the game, as he has a large health pool and a passive ability that makes him tough to kill, so he does best getting into the thick of things and leading the charge in a fight. While his archetype does define where he may position himself or where he might be best served, the items you would then choose to buy can further augment his kit and alter exactly how you might approach him. You could choose to build around his charge and heavy melees to deal high damage, you could build even further into health items and sustain to be an unkillable nuisance, or you could build into spirit with things like Torment Pulse and Cold Front to pair with his one, which also deals spirit damage in a radius. Every hero in Deadlock is designed at their base with this kind of flexibility in mind, while still offering those distinct strengths to service any playstyle or player. Maybe you know that you like being those big unkillable bruisers looking to take the heat in a fight. You might like characters like Abrams, Billy, or Victor. Maybe you like being as removed from the fight as possible, picking your targets off one by one. You could try Vindicta or Talon. Find yourself roaming around the map looking to catch people out, Drifter or Calico could be the one for you. Or maybe you're just looking to be as versatile as possible. Characters like Geist, Infernus, and Warden are all well-rounded options. Even within those examples that I just gave you, there's countless characters you can compare and contrast with who could fit into similar categories or multiple of them at once. Just as with every element of Deadlock, each character is extremely deep, requiring an investment in learning them through experimentation and rewarding you with near limitless potential. I know for me, as a player, I love support characters, as I want to be able to take in as much of what's going on as possible, trying to look over both the enemies as well as my teammates. I find it really fun to be able to interact directly with my team, but I also want a character that can hold their own in a fight when they need to, and can make an impact beyond just support. Paige checked each of those boxes for me, as for Kit has some fantastic supporting abilities like her barriers and her ultimate, but she also has some great offensive options. Her dragons can clear waves with ease to help push lanes and pressure objectives, and they can also restrict or force player movements, blocking off access to cover or thinning out the safe area in a lane. Her root is also great for immobilizing enemies to secure kills, but it can also help you peel a teammate out of a fight or help you escape one yourself. As I started to mix these abilities together, I was forcing enemies into the open with my dragon, locking them in place with my root, buffing my teammates as they jumped in on them, and sending in an ultimate if my team got low or if I needed to stun the enemy again to finish them off. As you deepen your understanding of a hero, you'll also learn how their playstyle impacts games, and as you spend time experiencing a character's strengths, that knowledge transfers onto you, becoming a part of your arsenal as a player. Through learning a character and how they work, they teach you aspects of the game that you may not have previously had access to or even considered on other characters. As an example, with Paige, I learned a lot about using active items and counter buying, as Paige's kit gives her the opportunity to play more behind the team, overlooking the fights. With that in mind, I noticed that I'd be able to see a Lash flying in from a rooftop and I could catch him with a knockdown, or I could see a Silver rushing down my teammate before I hit her with a disarming hex. While that taught me about buying items to counter heroes or situations, I also found myself relying a bit too much on those actives and fixating entirely on supporting my team. Wanting to push myself to better my aim and get used to being more in the fray, I picked up Geist so that I'd be forced to fight and hit my headshots to be effective. While I would still counterbuy when I needed to, I instead tried to focus on using items like Crippling Headshot to debuff heavy hitters, and I worked to be more effective at the front of the fight. I think the dance between characters is a fun one and one of the best parts of Deadlock, as it's a pretty entrancing cycle that somehow manages to incentivize you to both dig deep into a character as well as branch out across the cast. Whether you just want to specialize in your favorite hero or you want to experiment with different ones, every game you play builds on the last, and every hero has something unique to teach you. The final thing that I should touch on, and potentially what's come to define Deadlock the most, is its movement, and by extension, how you traverse the map. Just as with many games, how it feels to pilot your character is crucial in making the game feel fluid and fun to play, as it's what ties every other element of the experience together. For as fun as it is to shoot, farm, use abilities, or take objectives, every second of the game your character is moving, making it the most pivotal aspect of the game. For my money, I've never experienced a game that makes the act of moving as fun as Deadlock does. Characters control so fluidly, so responsively, and there are so many amazing, fun, interesting tools at your disposal to do so. There's the dash, slide, jump, strafe, double jump, dash jump, wall jump, instant air dash, zip cancel, melee glide, mantle slides, edge boosts, and more. Each one of those tools on their own presents so much value and so much interactivity with both the map and your character, but it's when you start to mix them together that things get to another level. You start finding those cool routes to jump pads, you edge boost and strafe around corners to escape fights, you zip cancel to climb a building in an instant, and before you even know it, it all feels so natural. As with the rest of Deadlock, the fun of the movement system completely sucks you into it, and it entices you to learn and develop at every turn. I know for me, I just found the sound, animation, and momentum of a wall bounce fun, so walking around the hideout or messing around in a lane, I would just hit one here and there to feel them out. All of a sudden, I noticed that it brought me up to a window I would normally double jump into, and I realized that I could use that to rotate somewhere faster without using stamina. Next thing I knew, I was bouncing off of everything I could, experimenting in different areas of the map as I got faster, more consistent, and more creative with my movement. By expanding my options to actually move, how I maneuvered around the map itself then opened up. I was able to easily access rooftops or fly through windows in a pinch. I could launch off of zips or strafe the jump pads to rotate between lanes, and I could also make myself a harder target in fights by using the terrain not just as cover, but as a tool to engage my enemies. While Deadlock itself has a near infinite skill ceiling, I think movement is the part of the game that exemplifies that the most. It completely transforms everything about how you engage with the game, and it dictates how efficiently and effectively you can perform. As someone who's just begun to scratch the surface of what Deadlock's movement can offer, it's nothing short of mesmerizing to see how far these systems can be pushed when you watch top-level play. While their itemization, accuracy, and decision-making are all unbelievable, it's topped by the speed and efficiency at which they can do it, thanks to their near-flawless movement. Every single aspect of Deadlock is just so meticulously engineered, and while its deep systems do come with a high level of difficulty, learning them and engaging head-on with them is one of the most rewarding experiences I've ever had in a game. Yes, it can be tilting, yes, people can be toxic, and yes, the losing streaks do sting, but as with many parts of life, the good things don't come easy, and Deadlock is really no exception. So if you're like me and you don't come from a MOBA background, but you're interested in Deadlock, I hope you can take away from this video that I think the difficulty is worth it. It's going to be hard, and you might feel pretty discouraged along the way, but if you accept the challenge and you enjoy the process of learning, I think you might surprise yourself just as I have. When I first started out, I never could have imagined that I'd be able to progress as far as I already have, and there's still so much more for me to learn, discover, and enjoy. While you've likely heard dozens of people say it already, Deadlock really is the future, and fortunately, it's looking to be a pretty bright one.